Sarah Kemp was found lying peacefully in bed, a violet in her hand. 2 weeks later, Alan Dorsey sat lifeless in his recliner, holding the exact same flower in the quiet town of Windsor Hollow, where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. Their deaths marked the beginning of a chilling pattern, silent, calculated, and without a trace. What connected them wasn't friendship, family, or history. It was a killer no one could see coming. Windsor Hollow had always seemed like the kind of place where nothing truly bad could ever happen, nestled between thick forests and gentle hills. The town felt tucked away from the rest of the world, like a forgotten piece of a simpler time. The population was just over 4,000, and everyone either knew each other or knew someone who did. It was the kind of town where you could leave your front door unlocked. A neighbor still brought over casseroles when someone got sick. Crime was practically unheard over cassetto, a few noisy disputes, but never anything that made the evening news. That sense of peace shattered one cold October morning when police were called to a home at the edge of Maplewood Lane. A co-worker of Sarah Kemp had grown concerned after she failed to show up for work at the town library. She hadn't called in, hadn't answered her phone, and hadn't been seen since the previous evening. The police arrived at her small, well-kept house just before 10 a.m. Everything seemed normal from the outside. The mailbox had yesterday's mail still inside, and her car was parked neatly in the driveway. But when officers knocked and got no answer, they forced entry. Inside, the house was quiet. Nothing looked out of place. No broken windows. No signs of a struggle. The living room was clean. Dishes had been washed, and the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Upstairs, they found Sarah in her bedroom. She was lying on her bed, fully clothed, with the covers pulled up to her chest. Her eyes were closed, and at first glance, it appeared she was just sleeping, but she wasn't breathing. She was gone. The medical examiner would later confirm she had died during the night. There were no wounds, no bruises, and no evidence of trauma. The official report called it asphyxiation of undetermined cause. That only raised more questions. Why was there no struggle? Why was her expression so peaceful? And most puzzling of all, why had someone placed a small, pressed violet flower in her right hand? News of her death spread through the town like wildfire. People who had never locked their doors began checking their locks twice. Families started keeping their porch lights on all night. Everyone who had ever crossed paths with Sarah described her as kind, soft-spoken, and gentle. She wasn't dating anyone. She didn't have enemies. She volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends and spent her evenings reading. There was no obvious reason anyone would want to hurt her. The investigation began immediately, but leads were scarce. There were no fingerprints, no forced entry, and nothing missing from the house. Her phone and laptop revealed no strange messages or calls. Surveillance cameras in the area caught nothing unusual. It was as if someone had come and gone like a shadow, leaving behind no trace except for that single, unsettling violet. The town held a candlelight vigil for Sarah that Friday. People wept. Flowers were laid on the library steps. But beneath the grief was a growing, unspoken fear. Something unnatural had happened in Windsor Hollow. And deep down, everyone knew this wasn't over. 2 weeks after the quiet funeral of Sarah Kemp, Windsor Hollow was still struggling to make sense of her mysterious death. The shock hadn't faded. People had grown more cautious, watching their surroundings with uneasy glances. The town's peaceful rhythm had shifted into something more guarded, more suspicious. Then, another discovery brought a deeper chill. On a foggy Monday morning, the body of Alan Dorsey was found in his home on Birchwood Avenue. A delivery man had come to drop off groceries, something Alan had arranged weekly since his wife's passing 2 years earlier. When no one answered the door, and after noticing the groceries from the previous week untouched on the porch, the delivery man called the police. Once again, officers found no signs of forced entry. Nothing broken, nothing stolen. The house was still inside. Alan was in his recliner wearing his favorite cardigan, his glasses folded on the table beside him. He looked like he had simply fallen asleep while reading. But just like Sarah Kemp, Alan was dead. The cause was eerily similar, no wounds, no blood, and no indication of a struggle. The medical examiner noted the same type of asphyxiation without explanation. But what solidified the connection was what the officers found in Alan's right hand. A single pressed violet flower, perfectly preserved, identical to the one found with Sarah. Panic rippled through the community. This wasn't coincidence. Two people, both well-known, both found in their homes, both with the same silent signature. The realization was impossible to ignore. Windsor Hollow had a killer, and no one knew who it was. The police tried to calm the public, but privately, they were shaken. Serial killers were the stuff of big cities and movies, not small, tucked away towns like this. Yet everything about these deaths pointed to a methodical, calculating presence. Someone was watching, choosing, planning. Investigators began tearing into the lives of both victims, looking for overlap. But Sarah and Alan had never worked together, never volunteered at the same places, and had no known mutual friends. Sarah was in her early 30s, quiet, booky. Alan was 74, retired, and spent most of his time tending his garden or watching old westerns. They moved in entirely different circles. If there was a link, it wasn't obvious. The violet flower became a central focus. Officers contacted botanists and local florists. The specific type used in both scenes was rare in that region. It didn't grow naturally in Windsor Hollow. Whoever had left it had either grown them deliberately or brought them from somewhere else. Either way, it was a message, but the meaning was still unclear. With no suspects and no witnesses, fear deepened. Rumors began to swirl. Some believed it was a stranger passing through. Others were certain it had to be someone local, someone who knew their routines and could move unnoticed. The hardest truth for many to accept was that whoever this person was, they were deliberate, patient, and worst of all, they were just getting started.